I may have finally landed on the swing that I'm going to be using for this foreseeable future. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Golf Test Dummy, the channel where I use my game to help your game, hopefully. In today's video, I'm going to take you through a little bit of elaboration on the last video that came out. If you haven't seen that episode, it was the breakthrough episode. Go look at that video first and then come back to this video if you haven't seen that one, because I revealed a couple of things that I found that really helped me out in trying to get more out of my golf swing, to get more distance, to get more consistency, to get more accuracy, but also at the same time to sort of simplify things and make them become more automatic. Today I want to kind of elaborate on that stuff, and I want to also walk you through kind of how I go about my practice routine out here. I'll show you a little bit about that. I would say probably 5 nights a week I'm out here for at least a half an hour. Let's get into it. First of all, guys, let me say this before I get too deep into this. You know that I've been doing my review of the Sean Clement Wisdom in Golf approach. And while I may not be labeling these week 4, week 5, whatever, these are still part of that review. I may have finally landed on the swing that I'm going to be using for this foreseeable future. There are probably going to be some things that I find and discover that some of you may or may not classify as quote unquote textbook wisdom in golf. But I don't know that he would necessarily condemn some of the things that I'm doing either. Let's talk a little bit about what I do when I come out here for my practice routine. By the way, it is insanely cold in this garage right now, and it is pouring rain. It's been pouring rain here for over a week, and the forecast shows a whole nother week. Indoor practice, something you can do at home, is now worth even more. You can spend half of the golf season trying to knock the rust off, where you can get yourself some foam golf balls, set up a hitting bay in your own home. If you haven't seen my video where I set these up for under $150, go watch that video. At least get yourself some foam golf balls, start doing your indoor work to pay off outdoors. Again, another video, I'm going to put up the thumbnail now. All of my training indoors has been paying off once I get outdoors. The first thing that I do is start with my feet together. You can start with a sand wedge or a utility wedge or whatever you want to start with, but I'm basically just trying to get warmed up. That's the first thing I do. It's also to make sure that I establish from the very beginning, the very first ball that I hit, that I am going to implement certain mechanisms. I'm going to take a certain approach to striking a golf ball. And for me, one of those things that I definitely want to incorporate and make sure that I get established in the beginning of every day or every round is to make sure that I am not using my arms in such a way that is going to throw me off balance. The arms are along for the ride, the legs, and the pumping up and down motion, like the perpetual motion drill, that is what drives the golf swing. So it's a great way to warm up. But you're doing more than just warming up. You are establishing the ground rules from the jump. And it's all legs. And you can just hear and feel how crisp and solid that contact is every time. Number one, priority number one. It's probably the biggest thing I learned from him in our teaching, in our lessons together, was number one priority above all else is make sure you're staying on task. Throw the club into the picture. Priority number 2 then becomes contact with the ball. That's what I'm establishing here. 5, 10 of those shots. It really just depends. So let's move on. After I've done that, I'll just open my feet up a little bit and I'll start making just some nice easy passes at it. And again, the task to cut grass in the direction of the target and to throw the club into the picture. Now, as you start getting into full shots, one of the things that Sean says is very important is to establish a starting point or an intermediate target and then pick a point on the screen that you're hitting into. You want to actually imagine the ball flight. You want to have a flight plan, as he calls it. Flight plan for me, by default, is a little tiny draw. Of course, hitting into a net, there's no way to know unless you get a simulator. And that's really what this is all about for me, is trying to eliminate all this biomechanical thinking and think more about the instrument the target and the golf ball. Well, I even want to forget about the golf ball. That's a waypoint. That's just something that I set up to, but it's not my target, you know? It's kind of like the sight on a rifle. If you hold up a rifle and you're looking through the sight at the target. The golf ball is the sight. You are the rifle, and the target's down there. So I'm set up with my rifle looking through the sight. So the ball would be the back sight, back here. The intermediate point would be the front sight. This is not on your fancy laser scopes. This is on iron sights, okay? But the ball would be the back sight. Then the intermediate point would be the front sight. You line up, and then the target is down range. So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get ball, front sight, and target line up. Now look, I don't know if you can hear the sound on here very good, but look, I've been breaking golf balls. So I've got 3 or 4 of these now, where after I hit them, I'm like, something's not going on with this ball. Something's not right. And then I look at it and just check out the ball, and I'm like, oh, the cover is split. I've been splitting the cover on these golf balls. As far as compression goes, I'm getting that level of compression, but really, I mean, you don't have to swing hard. Like if I take it in here and I've just got the right dynamics, right? I gotta learn to back off of it. Sometimes I have to remind myself, but just slow down and just let it develop. Let the swing develop. That's one of the big things I've been working on. So let's see. I'm really gonna try and take my time here. Like that. Now that is a much better, smooth tempo, but the compression on that is just, it's getting insane. I fully expect to crack this ball this week. They don't last quite as long as I would like them to, but I just kind of feel it in my legs, and then I want to let it develop. Now, another thing, and I didn't bring this up in the other video, because really I'm just kind of in the infancy stage. I'm in the infancy stage of all of this. All of this is still a work in progress. But another thing that I'm feeling is that when I get back here, you know, I was talking about collecting this on the way here. Well, now on the other side, I collect it here, and this is where I can apply that little helping with my legs. By the time I make impact and I'm kind of coming out of it, my right heel is staying down on the ground through impact a little bit. You know, instead of like this, how they show all the pros with their heel already up, mine is staying down, and I'm getting through it this way, and only then does my swing kind of pull me out. The momentum of the club is pulling me out to a finish. And I think Bo Norman and Sean Clement and Todd Graves, a lot of these guys talk about my swing balances me. So if I set up here and I've got my intention in the correct place, and then I'm going to let it build and take its time, right? It pulls you out of it. It pulls you up to your finish. There's a lot of drills where they talk about keeping your right heel down for longer. That, as an intention in and of itself, may be tough to pull off, because then a lot of people are probably going to stay back on their back foot and let that weight hang back here. I don't think that's the intention that you need to have. I still think the core intention needs to be to throw in that direction and let it release as if you're throwing it in that direction. Because if I'm trying to throw, like say for instance, my right shoulder in that direction, well now I might hold it off and just block everything or half shake it off to the right. You're trying to throw the club in the direction of the target, not you. You're not trying to throw yourself open and then make impact here. Like so many of these people are teaching now, you're trying to throw the club. And involved in throwing the club is the release at the target. And the byproduct of that is that if you're waiting on it and you're patient and you're not trying to rush it and Superman it out there, then the byproduct, I think, becomes that your right foot stays on the ground a little bit longer through impact. So if I set up in that way and I take it away, and then I'm patient. And then I'm patient through the shot. My right foot stays down a little bit longer without me having to think about my body parts. And that's really what this is all about for me, is trying to eliminate all this biomechanical thinking. So the ball is the back sight. I'm going to move this intermediate point. I've been aiming beside of it. I'm going to put it right there. Now I've got a direct line between ball, intermediate point, and target, ultimate target. So now I'm lining up everything and I'm looking between this and that. My eyes kind of go back and forth between this and that as I set up, and I'm just fine tuning, making sure that when I let it go, yeah, it's going to pass over that point. So that's the point it's going to go over, right? So now we let it go and we're going to release it, leg driven, take the arms out of it, let's fire. Just like that. That's helping me out tremendously. The compression on the ball is just getting phenomenal. And that's kind of what I'm working with. That's where I'm going. I hope you guys got something out of this video. I've walked you through my practice routine. I've showed you some of the things I'm working on. I elaborated on some of the points that we hit on the last week's video. Again, if you haven't seen those, if you guys are missing content, be sure to go through and watch the other content. Everybody's always telling you, hey, subscribe, hit the bell. Say hell with that. You know what? If you don't want to subscribe, you don't want to hit the button, don't do that. But for God's sakes, go back, look at the channel, go through the videos that you've missed and watch them in order. In order to comment or give me a thumbs up or subscribe or hit the bell, you have to have a YouTube account anyway. A lot of people don't have that. Go back and watch all the videos you've missed. There's stuff in there where this is building. It's almost like watching General Hospital. If you don't watch last week's episode, you're never going to know what's going to happen in this week and you'll be totally lost. Appreciate you guys watching this video. I hope it helps. I'm going to keep working. You keep working with me. We'll get there together. See you in the next video.